Hello, hello, hello. A little bit early today, a little bit early. John, thank you for the $9.99. I'm just going to jump in here a little bit and we're going to hopefully make sure that everyone can hear me and we're going to start out today strong. So, John, if you can hear me, it would depend on what the medication was. If it's a topical like if it's topical steroids, those do not count. Okay, thank you, Kenneth. Thank you, Jarhead. Appreciate it, appreciate it, appreciate it. So, I would need more information, John. Nope. We're going to go back. So, how is everyone tonight? I hope all is well. Thank you for the, well, let's go here for the start thing. So, you're screwed has become a member. Thank you for becoming a member. You're screwed. Now you're screwed. Kenneth, thank you for becoming a member. Always welcome, guys. Never required. I'll answer questions regardless. And then we answered John's question already, and then we come to James. What is the best way to update the TERA memorandum? It's a pretty good question. As I have been denied lung cancer but have had exposure to herbicides, and my TERA says just exposure. Denial letter shows that I was exposed to asbestos. So, James, what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to go to a VSO and you're going to want to have them pull your ILER if you have it, ILER, and you'll also potentially want to have them pull the memorandum because the memorandum itself is 6 main questions with some sub questions in there. And for the most part, the VSR gets to, and sometimes the rater, they get to kind of choose what, based upon your evidence, is in your TERA memorandum. Now, how do you update it? You would fill out a form, could be any form, there's no specific form to do it. So you could do it on a statement and supportive claim form, a VA form 21-4138. And you could actually just say, hey, look, I was exposed to A, B, C, and D chemicals. You have to explicitly state them. I was exposed to this based on these job duties at this location at this time type scenario. And if they fall within the circumstances of your service, then the TERA memorandum would be updated. So that's kind of how that one works. So let me go back here to the live. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to be talking in a little bit about SMC and the psychosis that is SMC. But before I go any further, I would like to say thank you to all of you that have, all 69 of you that have decided to show up just a smidgen early. And, makes me feel good to be able to answer your guys' questions. I was looking on YouTube today and it was like a gut punch to me. Some of the things that I was seeing on there. I saw that somebody got 80,000 views, which the views don't really matter to me. What matters to me is the dissemination of misinformation. The clickbaitiness of somebody saying like, hey, 10% is not the maximum that you can get for tinnitus. And I had to click on it. I fell for the bait because I'm like, that is factually not true. And they're like, you could apply for secondaries. And I'm like, okay, but you didn't tell the truth. Like, you didn't say an honest thing. You just said something to hook people in and then just kind of said like, hey, white paint is white, and it just upsets me. I almost can't go onto YouTube sometimes and review kind of what the peers are doing, just because some of them are just spreading misinformation, like actively doing it for clicks. And I'll look at my videos and they have like 1,000 views, and then I'll look at theirs and they've got like 10,000 views, and I'm like, don't sell out. don't sell out. Whatever you do, don't sell out. It's just disheartening, guys. But that's fine. I'm here for the information. So, Bud Light, if they did not review any of my lay or buddy statements, is it just a higher level review at this point? Okay. I'm going to say that Bud Light, did you submit any additional documents with your lay or buddy statements? Um, if it was a spouse, did you submit your marriage license showing that you were married at or before the time in which they're attesting to, so that way it can show that they would have known you at that time? Or if they were in the military, just anything showing that they were in the same branch of service, maybe something that shows that they were at the same place that you were at the same time, so that way they can have an informed opinion about it. I kind of spoke about this in one of my videos where I show in the manual where it prompts the VSRs anytime there's a buddy statement to, hey, you need to tell us how, like, you need to show us how you know that information. You need to show us that you were in that proximal location, because we're not just going to take the word for it. Like, hey, I'm a 12-year-old kid. I served with Johnny, like there has to be, on the Raider side of the fence, there has to be some way for us to show or give credibility to the individual that does the buddy statement. Okay. So if you just submitted buddy statements without qualifying anything, there's no way for me to tell that your buddy was your buddy and that they knew you. I mean, you can literally, and I'm not saying that you would do this, Bud Light, and I wouldn't say that anyone here in the channel would do this, but you could literally just have your mom write it, forge a name, and then just pretend like, I'm James Monroe, like, and just write stuff, right? So there has to be some kind of fact checking to establish credibility and authenticity when it comes to buddy letters. Um, I think I went over to VetCom's channel and kind of said something along these lines to them that, on one of their videos, because I was like, that's not the way this works. So anyway, but thank you for the comment on that, Bud Light. I hope um okay. Mike. Uh Let me see here. I'm actually going to look that up. Da, 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 da. Yeah. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I'm post migraine and I'm feeling kind of good about myself. So sinusitis. It's actually in the 38 CFR, Mike. So let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. Let's share the window. So hold on just a second, Mike. So this is the general rating scheduler for sinusitis. Sinusitis characterized by headaches, pain, and tenderness of the affected sinus. So if you have tenderness in, say, the frontal sinus, but that's not the one that the examiner said that you know, that is the one that they're giving you credit for, then it's a minor thing, but it could technically cause the DBQ to have to go back to be clarified. But this is where I got it from, is it's actually in the rating criteria that it has to be tenderness of the affected sinus. So if there's no tenderness in the frontal and you're being granted for the frontal, then we can't give you the 50%. So I hope that helps, Mike. It probably doesn't, because it's probably not what you want to hear. Bud Light, I saw my medical records and my med report that Sigbed, what? Sigbed, a bunch of my med documents in the same Corman. I don't know what that means, Bud Light, but any medical evidence that you submit that's dated and timed in the location of where you served should be good. Yes, fellow Raiders. Mark, Mark Duffy, if a claim has been granted based upon TERA memos stating exposure to herbicide agents and it says so in my decision letter, the later two subsequent memos say no, can that be severed? Okay, Mark, this. Okay, got to go to a banner here. I'm going to take down your question. Actually, I won't do it. So this is a big, big deal. Technically, if you yeah, technically, yes. It could technically potentially be severed in the future if you never had any kind of herbicide exposure. Like if you never went to a qualifying location where herbicides could have been, you know, reasonably determined to be in your, circumstances of your service, then yes, it technically could be severed, because it would be a clear and unmistakable error that you were granted. Now, what I would do, Mark, I would go to a VSO because currently they're the only people that have access to the records that you need to have access to. And I would go look at all of the TERA memos and see what happened, because what could have happened is the right person made the right call the first time. Two people that wanted points overturned the TERA memorandums, and then a fourth person came along and said, "What are you doing? Stop doing this," and then reinstated the herbicide exposure. I wouldn't make any moves on this unless you know the lay of the land. I would want to know what the current TERA memo says, the most recent one, and all that kind of fun stuff. So do yourself a favor and do that before you make any moves, because like you said, it can be severed. So if it just depends on what's true in the here and now. Um, so I filed an increase on migraines meeting the 50% criteria was approved in my favor, and they also deferred a claim for TDIU. I didn't put this in. Why did they do that? Okay, so typically why they did that is based upon the duty to assist. So the regulation is that if the rater sees any, like if you meet technical criteria for TDIU, they'll put it in. Now, what they'll do is they'll send you a 8940 form, a VA 21-8940 form, and a couple other forms for your prior job stuff. If you don't want to do it, then don't fill out the form. If you want to do it, then fill out the form. But they did it because they're supposed to. If they can raise it to issue legitimately, then they're supposed to do that. So, pardon me. Couple more here. Marcella, I'm sure it's easy to be disheartened, but the difference is okay. Thank you. Thank you. And I know I keep bouncing back and forth, guys, and I'm sorry, but it is disheartening to look out there in the playing field where people are just trying to get you to, give them, oh, wow, you did it twice. You didn't have to do that twice. But it is disheartening just because it's beyond frustrating, just because they're putting out something that's wrong and it makes me want to scream, right? If they're putting out good stuff and maybe they're not fully accurate, okay. They're trying. They've got good intentions, right? A lot of people have very good intentions. And I will say, the Informed Veteran is a YouTuber, and he has very good intentions. His stuff isn't like cutting edge, but he's kind of dialed in a little bit, right? So he's somebody that, I'm like, oh, okay. So I subscribe to him because I like to watch what he's doing. He's, I'm getting ready to maybe reach out to him and give him a couple pointers on a thing or two. But other than that, he does research and I like that. So I give a shout out whenever it's fine. And the same thing to the salty old Marine. He, tries to put out good information. I'm glad I found the VA help on YouTube, but not even are the same category. Oh man, see, this makes me feel good. You guys are pumping me up. I appreciate that. I'm just gonna go through these real quick. We also got a super sticker for the Baroness, and then we got another one. I'm gonna kill this. Jibri, and don't fault me if I'm wrong. Okay, so 451. I don't want to miss anybody's question. So I filed for GERD secondary to PTSD. Why would the VA use a 3-year-old DBQ and cancel a new CMP exam? The old DBQ is not my favorite, so how can I challenge it? Daryl, I might, uh, I might do a higher level review on that just for the sake of trying to get a difference of opinion and a duty to assist error. So that way they give you the exam and they kind of reopen the old claim. I don't like telling people to go do a higher level review. As long as everything is legitimate in your claim, then you should probably do a higher level review on this just to get it reinstated. Timothy, can you confirm or deny that a memo was shared with adjudicators at the local level based upon no. 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 Timothy, no. No. And here's like I need to explain this. If I got to explain this in the nicest way possible, but if the president came and told me directly to apply Barry v. McDonough, I couldn't do it until the M21 manual updates. Even if the commander in chief told me that, I couldn't physically do it. Number one, the system isn't coded yet to be able to do it. Like, I can't. It has to. It takes time for these things to go into effect. The PACT Act took 4 months before we could even start doing PACT Act related claims for the TERA and whatnot. We had to hold on to those claims until such time that we were able to actually do them. The VA can't flip a switch and go, oh, well, the Supreme Court said, it's not like this is a great question, right? It's a fantastic question because it highlights the fact that Doug Collins has to tell us through the manual, right? And through the process that we can use Barry v. McDonough. And until they do that, you're not going to see that because they've got to try to interpret it, what it means. And they might still get it wrong. And that's the fear, right? The fear is that even though there's this Supreme Court thing that says that, we have to behave in this way, the VA still, after that win, gets to reinterpret how they review it, which could be the exact same way that they were reviewing it beforehand. And then somebody else has got to sue yet again. And that's the way of the bureaucratic red tape world of this. So I do apologize, but no, there is no memo because here's the thing. If I did that, right, the half step, it's got to be signed off by the VSCM manager for anything above L. So we're not doing that. Like they're not doing that. They're not going to do that because they do not want a star error. Gosh, this is leading into something. So a star error is an error for the regional office based upon the behaviors. Like individual employees can get errors, individual divisions can get kind of like your team gets overall errors, the RO gets errors. It's a big deal. Star errors are not the one you want because it makes the management look bad. So they don't like them at all. So they aren't going to touch it because there's like the quality review team have to enforce the manual, not things that are pending in the wings. They have to enforce what's in front of us. Okay. And here I'm just going to share my screen again. Okay. So this is the SMC section of the manual. I was going to talk about SMC section today. Look at the last time it's been updated. Okay. It hasn't been updated since September of 2020. So until this and I will put it out, like, hear me well. The moment this change hits the books, I'm going to put a video out on it so that way you guys know, because I monitor this stuff. So that way when it's technically legitimate for the raters to apply it, I'm going to put that out there so that way you guys got this. Okay, Timothy? I I don't want to, I don't know. I know it sucks because you were told you can do it now, but we won't apply it. If you did a claim tomorrow, it would get denied. Just because they have to use the old system. I do apologize for that. There's probably like 8,000 comments below here. Uh, actually, let me turn on. I want to show the comments too, so that way I can see them. I will deny if a claim has been gathering. Okay. If my claim is in the gathering evidence stage and I see errors on my CMP exam DBQ, what should I do? You could submit a like VA form 21-4138 and specifically talk to the rater and say, hey, rater, this stuff was inaccurate in my thing. I have evidence to the contrary right here and here, or they didn't do this, that, and the other. Could I please have another examination? Because this, by a different examiner. Roger, arthritis is a presumptive under 38 CFR 3.309A. Yes, midnight light, they can, but they only do it on overtime. Typical work weeks Monday through Friday. You can do overtime over the weekends. Yes, I can, Jamie, and I answered yours in a text format. I did a FOIA for recent exams. Nice. Yeah, they should be included if they were pulled. Also, thank you guys. We're at the 4,500 subscriber mark, so I appreciate all that. I'm trying to read everybody's thing. Question. This is a very important question Travis has here. Have service-connected left knees. Starting to file for my back and my right knee. Filed 10 years ago, but no clue what I was doing. Now I have body mass index of 38. What are the chances the CMP states that is an issue? Probably not. It depends. So you probably have a higher likelihood for service connecting the right knee secondary to the left knee, just because uh, examiners like that a little bit more because they can understand how you favor, like, the act of guarding and favoring a weakened joint can cause the other joint to be overused and or weakened. Now the back is going to be a little bit of the new chair fund. Thank you. Um, so the back is going to be a stretch. Like, the back is going to be tough. Doctors do not like, I don't want to speak for them, but I will say that a lot of doctors um they like it whenever the disabilities are lower than the primary. So, like, my hips are out of align, like, my hip hurts, so it causes my knee to be in a position that's unnatural. So see how the hip is higher than the knee, and then it can cause the knee to be injured. What they don't like is they don't like going upwards. So my knees cause my back. Well, how? They're like, it provides no load bearing weight distribution issues for your back. It doesn't, like, I've seen a lot of medical opinions where the examiners are like, there is no correlation between the two. Now, I have seen, I mean, like a scant amount where they say, yes, it is, but it has to be, yes, it is. But I hope that answers your question, Travis. I already answered this. Uh, thank you for the. Yes, I already said this. Thank you, Jarhead. I'm just scrolling down. For the claim is all. Okay, for supplemental claim, is all original evidence still looked at? Well, yes, it is, but you need new and relevant evidence in order to reopen the claim. So you can definitely cite it. This is part of the reason why favorable findings are a thing, is because that's old evidence that we have conceded, like your current diagnosis, things like that. So um, you should resubmit it again, so it's just a nice package for the rater, so that way they don't have to look for things. If you can draw them a picture, they're a child. You should draw them a picture. Um, you know, just because sometimes we have the attention span of a child. All right, let's go here and let's look. Another super sticker. Thank you, you're screwed. And then the new chair fund. Thank you for the new chair fund. I appreciate it more than you know. Um, let's go down here. Actually, before we go into too many more questions, I did kind of want to talk about um I want to talk about SMC a little bit. And just the psychosis of SMC. And I wanted to say that this va.gov rates and special monthly compensation rates for SMC does a pretty good job of explaining the criteria better than the manual does, better than the CFR does. It actually goes through. Now, this is the monthly amounts, but you can also go here and learn how we assign SMC levels for L, which is aid and attendance, through to O. And there's even, it provides some good level of information. So let me just go through this real quick. Now, and I was looking at M for somebody else's. So for L, right, when we're talking about, oops, let me take this down. Or not. Let me keep this up. Boom, hide that. Okay, let's make this bigger so everybody can see, so the class can see. So when we talk about SMCL through O, right, what we're looking here for, we're going to start with L. So this particular va.gov website does a really good job in telling you what the requirements are for L. So you have to have both feet amputated, one foot amputated, and have lost use of the other one, right? There's a lot of ors here. So if you met any of these criteria, just one of these lines, just one of these criteria, you could be able to be service connected for aid and attendance. You've lost both use of the feet, you've lost a hand, use of one hand and one foot. So the loss of use of versus amputation. So the loss of use of, you have to be so impaired that it's like you're using a prosthetic. So if you can't move your foot, it literally can't, like you lost the use of your foot, and it's no better than if you had a prosthetic foot on there. Like that's kind of what we're dealing with here, to include potentially drop foot or something like that. Then they talk about the loss of eyesight and blindness, which is, currently a big deal, actually, often overlooked by raters. This is often overlooked. I don't understand why. Now, this is also true if you are permanently bedridden. So now you cannot be SMC S1. Okay, that's statutory housebound. That's where you have 100% service connected disability and a total combined of like 60%. That's statutory housebound and does not count for this. You have to be factually housebound, which is SMC S2. Okay. If you are SMC S2, then you can meet the requirements for L. which you should have been granted L if you're factually housebound, right? Now, the second thing, these two are kind of unique to L. They do not perpetuate throughout the lower SMCs. So the permanent bedridden, I mean, that one actually might, but this one right here does not. So the need daily help with basic needs like eating, dressing, and bathing, right? So this is where you would do the oh, I can't even think of it. What is it? It's a 41. No, there's a form for it, but the aid and attendance form. Can't think of it right now. We're just going. We're doing it live. So you need basic help. Now, this right here is not determined by a doctor. This is determined by a high school graduate, associate degree, bachelor degree, master's degree, doctorate degree rater that might not have a degree in medical anything. So, what you have to show them on these forms and what your doctor needs to show them is that you need this care. Without this care, you would die. Yes, the burn period is almost over, Robert G. So you would almost die without this. Medication management is one of the easiest ones to prove to a rater. Like if you have to have an in-home nurse give you your medications, then that is the easiest one for them to kind of understand in their mind. If you have PTSD, let me tell you, that is going to be a hard sell for most raters. You need to explain to me how you physically cannot put the dirty clothes in the washing machine, right? With just PTSD. I know a lot of people do it. I'm not talking down in any way, shape, or form to that, to individuals with that that demographic with that disability that is that severe. But you need to highlight why it is you can't do it, and have your doctor attest to that, or else for mental health related, like schizophrenia, like personality disorders are different too. Schizophrenia, where you have like sometimes no control over your over your behaviors, that's kind of a gimme for some raters. But you just need to understand that this needs to be tailored to your disability. So when you fill out the aid and attendance form, you need to basically highlight why it is they can't do, if you're filling out for a family member or whatever, it needs to be highlighting why you can't do your ADLs, your activities for daily living. Okay. Now let's talk about L and a half. So a half step. So we have a lot of the same. So this starts out with both feet amputated. So the amputations have gotten higher, 1 foot and the other knee amputated. So there's a different set of requirements for SMC L and a half. So the half step is not just I have additional disabilities or whatever. You actually have to meet additional criteria for it. You've lost 1 foot, one other knee was amputated, all this other stuff. And then we come down here. Now the blindness is also expanded to very specific things about the blindness. So this is another thing, total deafness in one ear. This is where a lot of raters aren't looking for this. So you have to be cognizant of this. You have to be mindful of this, and you've got to point this out to the rater to the point that you might want to print out this page and highlight what you have. Like literally highlight it like I've done and say, I have this, and submit it with your claim. Because if you don't, then the rater might not be looking for it. They might just be bebopping, because some raters, especially the newer ones, they don't think about SMC until the VBMS system prompts them to. And the VBMS system has an error in it to where it's not prompting the raters for this. So they have to hand calculate this now. And it can be problematic if you have a complex series of criteria, somebody who's not familiar with it, and a system that doesn't like actively help them do it. So there are reasons, which are not good reasons, but there are reasons why this system is not working the way it should be. Or, and now this is a change too. Both of these statements must be true. You have a disability or situation listed in L, fair enough, right? You wouldn't have L, you know, and you have one or more additional permanent disabilities rated at 50% or more. So this is kind of easy to get for, this would be the easier one of these unless you had this specific issue. So SMCL, that's how you get the half step in the current environment. No, zombie. SMC S1 is not hard to get. You just need a natural 100 and then like other disabilities that when combined together add up to like 60%. Now, let's look at M, okay? M, these are full amputations, so there's not much wiggle room with these. It's not functional loss. We're actually talking about full-on amputation. And then we come down here to or. You've lost the use of both hands. You've lost the use of both knees. You've lost the use of this, that, and the other. Blindness has just went wild. So we've got a lot of specific blindness issues. Blindness, 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 blindness. Now, you know what we've lost here, though, guys, is we've lost this section. So this section doesn't go any further than L and a half. So if you're on L and you want to do a half step and go up to M and go up to, you have to, you're in a whole different category. So if you have any of these disabilities here, you can skip L and go straight to M. Why would they, zombie, all you'd have to do is just do a claim for SMCS1. That wouldn't cause you any issues. They can't lower you if you just did SMCS1. And then we go to M and a half, and it's more of the same. Just horrible life situations due to the military. We physically lost. We got blindness. Blindness starts to take over as one of the main factors associated with why people have, higher than M. Blindness, blindness, blindness. And then this, obviously true. You have to have something on the M scale and then something 50% or more disabling. And then we want to go down here to N. This is just horrible circumstances, situations. I worked at a MAMSI in Washington State and had doing radiology stuff, and I would take x-rays of people that, IED survivors who, amputations and just horrible nightmare fuel. So yeah, no, I get this. This is more blindness, more blindness, more blindness. But or you have blindness in both eyes that require help with daily. Now we're actually back to the daily living stuff, but it has to be only due to blindness. So it's very situational and very niche. It's not necessarily a progressive thing that you can get worse and worse and worse on, because the criteria doesn't just lump more on top of it. The criteria actually changes the further down you go. And then we got the same thing where it's going to be, more of the same. And then we got O. Both arms amputated. Complete paralysis of both legs that resulted in being unable to control your bladder or bowels. This has to be true. So just the paralysis itself doesn't satisfy. You have to have the subsequent bowel and bladder inability to control. And then we talk about, or you have hearing loss in both ears and you have blindness in both eyes. So once again, this is just the worst of the worst circumstances for anybody. Or you have two different disabilities or situations listed in L, M, or N designations. Now, this is interesting. So technically, they have to be different. right? So you could be a person with L as we scroll all the way back up. Let's go to L. And you've had both of your feet amputated. And you're permanently bedridden. Then you could be O. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, but it's about as clear as mud. And then, yeah, I wanted to show you guys the date of the change for September 20th, 2020. And I also wanted to say this is important. The responsibility for determining loss of use rests within the rating activity, not within the examiner. Okay. This feels like a gut punch, and it should, because the loss of use should be determined by the examination, by the examiner, by the doctor, by your doctor that knows you well, that's done the nerve conduction studies, not by somebody like me or like a rater or somebody. Like, it should be just, it should be the examiner. But when we come to that loss of use section, the rater can disagree and they'll win. And there ain't nothing you can do on higher level review. I mean, they might do a difference of opinion on it, right? Like the DRO could do a difference of opinion, but I, I mean, it's the luck of the draw, you know? So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. That's my TED Talk version of this, of my stuff. But let's get back to some questions. How can the VA deny a secondary due to degenerative disc disease? They even said it was connected, but denied me. A secondary DO? I don't know what that is. Disability? No. I don't know. They can do it because degenerative disc disease, there's a disease process one, and then there's a post-traumatic version of it. And what they probably said was due to. Okay. Thank you, Daryl. It's probably that they thought it was the post-traumatic one. So, like, you can get post-traumatic arthritis if you jam like your knee or something like that. Sorry, I'm reading Jamie's comment. But anyway, the degenerative disc disease, if they don't determine that it's a disease process like gout where it can move between joint systems, and they think it's only the post-traumatic or osteoarthritis version of it, kind of, then it can't be secondary. Or what could have happened is the rater overturned the positive medical opinion, because they can do that. Can you explain what a Superfund site is? I don't actually know what that is. Oh, Okay, so Fort McClellan, okay. I want to point this out. Fort McClellan is not an auto win button. Fort McClellan, you had to be doing certain activities in certain locations. Like if you go to the va.gov site and you search for Fort McClellan, it'll say in there that it's not presumptive for those conditions. They'd still be under TERA, but not every veteran or not every service member that was there was exposed to the chemicals, even though you could have like low end radiation. Yeah. But that's going to be in the eye of the rater as to whether or not, or even the VSR, as to whether or not they determine that that's in the circumstances of your service. So, like I said beforehand in another question, I would list the specific chemicals that you were exposed to at Fort McClellan and put that in a VA Form 21-4138 and submit it with your claim. So that way you explicitly claim the chemicals and you force them to decide whether or not those chemicals are in the circumstances of your service. If you don't do that, then they can just go, nah, and they can't account for it. Because QRT has to account when you explicitly claim the chemicals. The rater has to account for those chemicals. So I would suggest doing that, Chris. I hope that helps you. I know that that has to be more frustrating than I can even determine. Um, I'm about 30 minutes behind on questions. Why do they have gastrointestinal listed as a PACT Act illness, but the VA doesn't recognize GERD? Okay, GERD is a structural disability. So, okay, I'm going to break this down, Daryl. A couple things. PACT Act illness is not a thing. It is either a 38 CFR 3.320, respiratory condition due to fine particulate matter, or it's a 38 CFR 3.317 MUCME, okay, which I think that we're leaning more towards MUCME. A MUCME are for unexplained illnesses. Now, IBS is an unexplained illness. However, GERD can be explained by, taking medication. A lot of it's a structural issue. There's a structural defect or cause for the GERD. So structural issues cannot be part of 38 CFR 3.317 MUCMEs. And TERA, they can be. GERD can be caused by TERA, and TERA is a PACT Act, a new PACT Act theory for service connection. So technically, you could claim it under TERA. You can't claim it under MUCME. So I hope that helps, Daryl. Marcella, how do you feel about healthcare at the VA? It's a mixed bag. I've actually worked at the VHA before, and I will tell you there's things there that haunt me depending on where you work. If some people say, I think Doug Collins said this. He's like, if you worked at one VA, that's saying that you've worked at one VA, you've seen one VA, that shouldn't be a thing. It is a thing. I mean, night and day. Craziness, like absolute abject craziness that can happen. Like, I had to do historically a congressional testimony about something and submit my testimony to something that happened. I can't go any further into that, but it just depends. The people try hard, but the system typically fails them. Like, a lot of people try hard, and veterans that work there try even harder, but it can be horrible. And do in a way that can. Do you feel that they can use what we say and do in a way? No, I don't. Like, if you honestly went like, yeah. If sorry, I was reading something funny. Do you feel the way that they use what we say and do in a way that can negatively affect your rating? No, I don't really think so. Like, that kind of, we don't really care. That, I shouldn't say this like as an absolute, but we are supposed to, like, not use a bad situation against them. We just looking to see what the normal is, what the overall, like, you can have one time in which somebody says something negative. Like, have you ever had a doctor and then you get a different doctor because that doctor's a quack? We account for that, right? That sometimes the doctors say things and they don't know what they're talking about. You should see how we treat some of the examiners, like through some of the vendors. We're like, what on earth are you talking about? You're all over the place. Fix your stuff. You're paid well. Fix your things, please. Get your stuff, get it in a bag, get it together, get your stuff together. And then come back to us, fix your, like, I've had it to the point where I've had to send the examination to a different examiner because the doctor's so, it's not the veteran's fault, right? But I don't know. I don't think that it does. I don't think that it does unless they see that you're like a person that's malingering. And oh, Samps, you can claim mental health, like claim depression, and never have gotten treatment beforehand, and it doesn't negate anything. If the examiner gives you a diagnosis and you have a credible, all the elements are met, you can get granted. You don't have to have extensive treatment. Let me go. Marcel, I'm gonna leave you up for a second, but okay. Using obesity as an interim step with a higher level review supplemental claim, if the VA prescribes a weight loss drug, would that put the intermediate step in jeopardy? No, no, because the weight gain could have caused. There's certain things that happen where the weight gain causes you to have the disorder, right? Being on the weight loss drug itself doesn't. If you slim down to a buck 20, the examiner might want to know why the OSA hasn't resolved. So I'm thinking it's OSA. If it's something else like diabetes, once you get diabetes, you kind of always have diabetes. So Drissy, Driz. Hey Raider. What to do if you find an unfavorable medical opinion after your CMP? Should I gather new evidence and upload it to the current claim or wait for a supplemental? You want to wait for a supplemental because you don't want to burn that evidence and make it to where it's not new and relevant. The new evidence that you get, you want to make sure it's new and relevant, and you want to claim a supplemental. Because what happens is, as long as you have a diagnosis, right? As long as you have a diagnosis, we can go back in time. Like if you have a diagnosis back in the first claim or before the first claim, and it's within a year of that claim, the effective date can go back to that original claim because the date the entitlement arose is based upon when you were diagnosed. If the issue at hand is that you didn't have a diagnosis in this claim and you're going to get a diagnosis in the supplemental claim, then the supplemental claim effective date, like that's whenever your effective date is going to be, is the date of claim for that or the intent to file associated with the supplemental claim. Hope that answers your question. Wake. Do you think if I went to the board direct with no additional evidence, would they grant a step increase there instead of the regional? Actually, Mike, that might be a good idea because the board doesn't have to play by the VA's rules. Like it's chess and checkers, my friend. The board can do what it wants. And if it actually, like, that is probably the best route for you to go is take it to the board. Now you're in a race against time. It could take 6 months for them to update the manual in order to get the changes fixed, or it could take you 6 months to at least get a board a meeting. So it's up to you, however you want to do it. But you have a more favorable legal outcome, right? Because that would be a law route. The legal change that happened they would be very cognizant of that. So you'd probably get a good outcome, and you'd probably get a better outcome than if when the changes first come out on the VA side, because the raters won't know what to do. Because they'll get the training, but they've never actually done it, right? Like they've never done that practice or that stuff before. So it will be challenging for them. All right, MCM. Awesome information, Rare. Thank you for tonight. Yes, thank you. Roger. I'm just doing these real quick. For sleep apnea, would you consider the military hospital staff report stating that my roommates described me making gag? Yes, I would actually do that. But, Roger, what I would do is have a doctor attest to that. Yes, that could be signs and symptoms of, apnea. Chris McGee, is there evidence listed on the decision letter or only evidence used to make the decision? Is the evidence listed on the decision letter the only evidence used? Sometimes no. There's no obligation to list every single piece of evidence that was used in a short form narrative. In a long form narrative, yes, you have to list it. If evidence is not listed, but in VBMS, should I file a higher level review? Actually, here's the better thing to do, Chris. Go to a VSO, look at the exam request, have them pull up the exam request for the examination for your CMP exam and see what evidence the examiner was given. If the examiner was not given evidence that you submitted, then that is grounds for a higher level review for a duty to assist error. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Let's keep it going. Carlos, question. I'm ready for PTSD. How do I verbalize verbalization my new rating of migraine secondary to it? Okay, this is actually easy. You would just do okay, actually it's not going to be easy because it's situational. I'll use my own circumstances. So I would claim it as in migraines secondary to panic attacks, or migraines post panic attacks attributed to PTSD, right? And if you're concerned about it, I would write a VA Form 21 4138, and I would explicitly state that, and if this is true for you, um, my symptoms of PTSD remain the same as the prior examination identified on this date. So that way you make it clear that you're not asking for an increase, right? And you can say on there, I am not asking for an increase in mental health at all. That the symptoms remain the same. So that's how I would address it. Tony, thank you for being a member. And Matt, migraines are just at 0% ACE exam with VA medical evidence from primary care and mental health showing prostrating 3 to 4 times a month with medications, increased point or evidence of a higher level review. Okay. So what matters is when this evidence existed. So if the mental health evidence showing, or the evidence showing prostrating migraines 3 to 4 times was during the actual claim, before or during the claim, and was of record at the time of that original claim, then you would wait, what? Oh, nice. Nice. Sorry. That was funny. Um, but if this evidence was of record in your at the time of your original claim, then do a higher level review. If this evidence manifested after your rating decision, do a supplemental claim. Okay, that's the defining factor. There is the date that that evidence existed and whether or not it was before the rater during that original claim. If it was, shame on them, higher level review. If it wasn't, then it's not their fault. They worked with what they got. Let's go back to the normal questions. So. Okay. Yes. And I mean, I think, I want to say, like, I want to kind of do shout outs, I sometimes don't like doing shout outs just because I don't want to, the moment that I say something nice about somebody, they're just going to go off the rails and just be like, veterans that go to their exams nude are going to, like, I don't think he'd do it, but, it's just, it's something weird where, if you throw support to, somebody, they, they say the weirdest things that don't go with what you normally talk about. So I don't know. I'm working through a cervical degenerative disc disease claim. I had spinal fusion surgery, but no surgery and treatment while in service. The spinal fusion, okay. So you just need to get you had to have some kind of neck injury in service, and you had to have some kind of neck symptoms now prior to the spinal fusion. So they will try to service connect the symptoms that happened prior to the spinal fusion to service. That doesn't mean that you won't be rated. If they grant you, you'll still get rated based upon the spinal fusion because it's a natural progression of your disorder. Now, what might not be a natural progression is, let's say that you had, cervical strain and then you got into a car accident after service, and that's why you're getting the spinal fusion. Those would be two separate things. So what they would try to do is they try to estimate out what your symptoms were before the car accident and give you credit for that, because that's what the VA air quote caused. You need a decision team to answer. Yes, I know. Chair fund, computer equipment. Yes. Thank you. How to rate or balance no No treatment. I want to say treatment. No treatment in service with a nexus letter. So the way that, like, I've said this, or I've showed this on a few videos where, like, if you're in a combat theater, we're supposed to take personal statements and buddy statements that can be corroborated with evidence that they were there at the same time as you. We're supposed to take those at face value. If you have events in service, like parachute jumps, a very strenuous job like a load master, we're supposed to take that into account too. Um, I also find it personally very persuasive whenever somebody says, "Hey, look, I was on flight status and I had to hide my symptoms in order to stay on flight status." So, oh yeah, Gary, yeah, I know. I like the Civ Div too. Like he's one of the more dialed in YouTubers for never having done the job. He's pretty accurate. Like, obviously nobody's as good as me, but just joking. He's good. Like I've talked to him a few times. If my medical records were signed by the duty corpsman and my buddy's statement is from him, do I still need to prove that we were at the same? Yes. Yes, you do. Yes. And the reason why is because it's just required. It's required to show that, hey, look, because did he sign them after the fact? Like, did he get into the military 4 years after you and he saw you after the fact? So he's attesting to things that happened before he was even in the military? Or did he, sorry, dog shaking her head. Or did he actually, like, serve with you at the same time in the same unit type situation? That's more probative. I assign weight to that, a lot of weight to that, to where it can hold up to element two. Like, you could have no treatment in service. And if you can prove those things to me, like that, this right here, if this panned out and you gave me his DD 214 and he had, was it PCS orders to the same place that you were at the same time that you were, this would weigh so heavily in your favor in my book. But I would point that out, that this, I can prove that he was at the same place, same time, and this is his MOS, to where he was the subject matter expert at that time. Now, I'm going to come back to it, my friends, that, and the controversial topic, okay, of my 51% analysis is that you need to pad the evidence in your favor. 50-50 is the luck of duh, right? That you're going to get somebody that's just half doing it. They're not dialed in, they're skimming stuff. You need to make it to where your evidence is solid, okay? And not fabricating anything, but going the extra mile like you did in the military, right? Like, go the extra mile. Wrap it up in a nice bow form if you can. If you can't, then fair enough. You go with what you can. But if you can pad this thing to where it's locked in, everything is dress right dress. This is the way. And I can't stress this enough, guys. Like, because it increases the likelihood. Nothing is ever certain. And that's another thing that grinds my gears a little bit, is whenever I go onto YouTube and they're like, this is 100% way to do this one thing. There is, presumptives aren't even a certainty if you don't have a diagnosis, right? Like, there's criteria for things, and it bothers me. We're going to, oh my gosh, ranting coming. It's going to get me. Must fight the rant. All right. Kent State hippie. Okay. I absolutely love the Salty Old Marine. Keep up the good work. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, he has a very like, I'll say him and I do different things, right? Like, and that's fine, right? Like, there's enough avenue out there to where we can do different things, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. But I've commented on a couple of his things. He's pretty good. I submitted a claim for mental health, TBI, migraines. Should I expect a single rating for all three? No. No, you shouldn't expect it, Chris, because they could separate out your mental health from your TBI, and they could also separate out the migraines. It depends on what I want to say the higher of the three would be. So combining them all, combining some, or combining none. Whatever the highest would get you that makes most sense medically is going to be what they go with. Yes. Grinds my gears. I thought it was Family Guy. Tony, that's Family Guy, isn't it? I don't know. If I find factual errors in my DBQ, supplemental. I would say supplemental because the higher level review, I mean, you could do a higher level review, but what'll happen is it'll just be a duty to assist error and they will shift into getting you a new exam. Both of them are getting you a new exam. Oops, that is not cool. Daryl, guys, did you hear about the claim shark company that is being indicted by the big? They were using oh, I actually heard about this. Yeah, no, this is bad. This is why, like, I'm not against claim companies that don't fill things out for you. The moment somebody's giving you templates and filling things out for you is the moment that you're not driving anymore. Okay? Like, you're not even in the car anymore. That's why, like, if you saw those AI driven things, like whenever I brought up the higher level review and all those kinds of things, like whenever I keep critiquing these things, that's when I'm like, who's even writing this? What person is writing this? Who is this supposed to be, the veteran? Because you don't want to do this right here, because if it comes back, guys, that somebody wrote up your entire thing to include buddy letter templates, and they have all these things where they coach you on stuff on how to specifically talk during an exam, maybe not like what to shy away from, or like what I might suggest to somebody that would be benign, like this would be benign, is go download the DBQ, check the boxes that you think are true, and then do a, like, give an example of each of the boxes that you check for mental health. Like, that's good exam prep, because sometimes you're not fully aware of how things bother you, and you're not fully aware of how they manifest, right? But that's different than somebody going, okay, so if they say this to you, I want you to say that your grandma died. Well, my grandma didn't die. Oh yeah, but you tell her that you tell them that they died. And then some people are like, some of these claim companies out there are like, when they're giving you step-by-step tutorials on how to go through your CMP exam, scary. I don't know if I would put my claim, because I am a veteran, guys, same as you. I put my pants on the same way that all you other veterans do. Maybe backwards, but who knows? But I don't know if I would go with them, right? Because there is helpfulness, and then there's whatever that is. Because they don't, I know I'm kind of harping on this, but you have to be careful, because it could seem like, look, I need to use this particular company because they guarantee they're going to get me, you know, this, that, and the other. And they're going to coach me on this stuff. They're going to give me, like, I'm going to do exam prep with them, and I'm going to do all this weird stuff. And you could be in the circumstance where that same company gets this exact same thing that Daryl's talking about, where OIG's coming down, and all of your claims could be put into jeopardy. Now, I don't want you to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are, I guess, okay companies out there. There's good companies out there that are helping veterans. There's, accredited claims agents. There's, there are some companies out there that I don't know, that aren't bad, but there are some that are disingenuous. They're not. They're looking for an outcome, and it's terrifying. But that's all I want to do on that. I'd be here all night. VA math does suck, Jason. I have PTSD. How do I verbalize a nexus to my I think I already answered that. Yeah, I did. I already answered that. Yeah, there were 4. Okay, Robert, I like that you fixed your name. You're at almost 5K in a short time. Took them years. You got people donating in here because of your solid efforts. Thank you so much for that. The others have to be clickbait. God, but you know what? I even succumb to some of the clickbaits because I'm like, what are they even talking about? But they are. They're making hand over fist, guys. Like those clickbaity guys, they're making hand over fist. And I'm gonna stay true to it. I just hope that you guys spread the word and we grow the channel to the point where I could do this full time and just navigate the system for you guys, look up the stuff and just put out the good information and try to fight the misinformation that keeps you dependent on them. Like my hope is that you guys get 100%, you never watch my channel again. Like I helped you. Maybe you can tell other people about my channel, but my goal is to, you know, I mean, I guess 100% isn't necessarily the desired goal or whatever, but it's to get you to where you should be, right? So that way, it's not the bureaucratic tape that holds you back. That you guys are so informed that you could rate these claims yourselves, right? That you're up to date on it, and not just for the here and now. Maybe something changes in the future, right? Some additional benefit comes around, like the special monthly compensation statutory housebound. Some people don't know about that. Now, I just, uh, uh, hi, can you explain SMC? I did. Zombie, I did, but this was before I started. So, how is arthritis a presumptive? And I already answered this one under 38 CFR 3.309A. Do raiders work on the weekends? Yes, I already answered that. I already answered this one. Jamie, I did. Sometimes raiders don't even no. Sometimes raiders don't even look at those 4138s. Well, we're supposed to. And if they're anybody that I've ever trained, then they do because they're supposed to account for them. You can get an error. See, like the reason why I say a 4138 in the somebody had said that I should get like a dollar every time I say that, but the reason why I say to use a 4138 is because it gives raiders the fear because a 4138 can have your specific like anything that you additionally claim on a 4138 that's submitted the same day as the claim needs to be added as a contention. So the raiders are trained to look for 4138s at least on the day that the claim was made to make sure that all of the claimed issues are accounted for or else we can get an error. So that's why I say to use a 4138 is because raiders are looking for that form. Even buddy letters, I say to put on the 4138 because we're kind of trained to look for that. Okay. I don't know if, it probably doesn't change your mind on it, a face with no name, but I hope that makes it a little bit more understood. Thank you. For sinusitis, if symptoms are in the DBQ narrative, but the boxes aren't checked, it doesn't still count. It should have yes, 4138's our life. It doesn't it can count. It can count for conflicting evidence. So this would be a duty to assist error. It should go back within the claim that it's in. It should go back and it should actually sorry, the dogs need to go out. So it should actually go back and be revisited and have the actual. Hold on just a second. All right, I'm back. Sorry. Dogs are going out. Dogs are going crazy. So What would need to happen is the exam would have to go back. If the claim's still open, the exam would have to go back, and the exam would have to be have the conflicting evidence resolved. Either it is should be checked or it shouldn't be checked, and they need to account for that with a rationale. They failed to provide a rationale as to why the symptoms don't meet criteria currently. Um, Now, if that claim has ended, right? I did not serve in the Marine, zombie. If and you're going to ask me what I served in, but I'm not going to tell you. Um, if that claim has closed, then what you would have to do is do potentially a higher level review within a year and say that there was a duty to it. Like in your opinion, there was probably a duty to assist air. You never want to tell them what their job is, or you want to just say, I don't know. I think there is a duty to assist air here because they say that I do have the symptoms, which I do, if that's true. And they didn't check the box. So, um, actually, was it Bay 78? That's truth. So there's truth. And the reason why is because there's an OIG report. Oh man, I don't want to lose my spot here, but let me see here. Camille. Okay. We're scrolling all the way down here, guys. There's like hundreds of questions. So many questions. I'm so behind. I'll get to it later. Oh my gosh. There's so many questions. I lost my place. I feel bad. All right. Hide the current comment. Go down here. Find Camille's thing. Sorry, guys. But the scuttlebutt on that is that you remember how I was talking about from August to January, we didn't start implementing claims correctly, like for the PACT Act. We kind of waited on them. Oh my, what happened? I have lost my place. Thank you. Decision came back 100% from Wake on the first try. Thanks to you and Clay. Keep up the good work. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm just going to start here. But anyway, actually, hold on. I want to finish my thought first. So the PACT Act claims that happened from August 10th of 2022 to January 1st of 2023, those claims were not adjudicated correctly. They were put into a holding pattern, and then they didn't actually get adjudicated correctly. So the scuttlebutt is that some of those were done incorrectly because the examiners didn't have the training at the time to some examiners didn't have the training even after January of 2023. That's why like it gives me the fear whenever they do the half step, about like decisions that are quickly after something changes. It can be, kind of scary. The meltdown. Is it a good idea to bring meds in a bag? No, it is not a good idea to bring meds in a baggie and migraine and pain logs to your CMP. It is not. Number one, medication doesn't move the needle any. Okay, your pain log, your migraine log would, like, that's valuable to take with you to your CMP examination. Also, making sure that you define what prostrating means to you. So go into the M21 manual and look up prostrating. No, you don't, zombie. I've worked next to people with a GED. No, you don't need any kind of degree to be a raider. I mean, I have one, but I'm a rarity. Philip Powell. I wish this information was easily available 20 years ago. Me too. I don't know what the hide and seek is. I honestly don't. I don't understand why this process is so complex for no reason. Right? Like, do you guys feel like that? Do you honestly feel like that? That the process is so, like, they take something that's so kind of easy sometimes. You know how presumptives are easy and some things are easy, and then they just put in artificial roadblocks for no reason. Especially on my side of the fence, it seems like, that's the way it's been forever, but nope. I watched a recent okay. Yeah, okay. Actually, I'm close. I'm close to where I was. Okay, yes. I think. Maybe. No. Until they will, yes. Hey, come here. Sorry. Luna. Come here. Come on over here. Okay. Sorry. Sorry. So until I was about to retire, turns out the labs were sky high for 7 or 8 years, and they never acknowledged it. Never acknowledged what? Oh, okay. Yeah, labs themselves can't be a disability, but if it transitioned into something else like diabetes, then yeah. Does a rater pay pretty good? I mean, I'll tell you, I cleared over 6 figures last year. Well into 6 figures. Okay, so okay, this conversation back and forth. Okay, what does less likely than not then in parentheses likelihood is at least approximately balanced to or equal to? I don't understand it. This doesn't make sense. It means no. It means less than 50%. It means that they're not confident in that the causal relationship of the conditions. Yeah, no. That's with overtime. I mean, they're GS12s, zombie. So, do rares give more weight to an MD as opposed to? Yes, I do. It depends on who knows you more, right? Like if a nurse practitioner, if you've seen a nurse practitioner for a number of years, right? And there's no set amount, but if they're your primary care provider and I've seen that they've done a lot of work with you, I might give them equal credibility to the MD. But it also depends on how they wrote up their rationale. Like whoever the one is that wrote up the rationale, then sometimes zombies, sometimes they hire people to work from home. But it all depends on how the evidence is written up. But no, on its face, yes, you're supposed to give an MD more credibility than a nurse practitioner. But there are mitigating factors that can alter what weight each one has. Like I've had medical doctors that give me the worst medical opinions known to man. They say it's at least as likely as not, but that they're not written to the point that I can grant. So I have to, send it back. William, if at 70% definitely can't work or be around people, plus body can't stand or sit for long, should I try TDIU? I mean, oh gosh, dog. Nope, hold on. We're having a dog interlude here. Somebody came home, so I mean, obviously there's intruders and ninjas and stuff happening. But if a 70% definitely can't work, so the problem with TDIU is everything that you're going to claim TDIU for gets an increase exam. So there is the potential if you have been granted for less than 5 years for those conditions, they wouldn't be considered within the 5-year rule. So it would only take one examination to show improvement in order to reduce you. So there are dangers and risks with that. Okay. Um, but I mean, it's up to you. You just have to, like, one of the things that I might say is you might want to go and make sure that all of your evidence matches what it used to say on your prior, what got you to 70%, right? So you might want to review that. It's a personal choice. I can't recommend it because it has dangers. Nope. Okay, grind my gears. Nope. Thank you for the support, Military Mike. And yes, Jarhead, I'm going to rant away. So, how are you supposed to find CMP examiners' lies that they put on your so-called DBQ? Every subsequent exam afterwards is just a copy and paste of the first one, which they already got you denied. Okay, so Modoc, how I do this is I typically will obviously ask for a different, like I'll figure out who did the exams previously and I'll get a new set of eyes for it. If I get most of my care through the VA, then I want the VA to do my exams, right? I want to make sure that my new evidence whenever I appeal is really showing, right, on a more than like 2-time basis that this is changed from before. This is not true. And I like to have my examiners talk about how, that the statements made by the previous examiners are untrue and have them hopefully opine that in my records. So yeah. So that's what that's my recommendation, Modoc, is to get it before a new set of examiners and do that. Every dog in town is barking currently. Mine are probably going to go off here in a minute. Yesterday, my psychiatrist officially diagnosed me with PTSD. The issue is that I'm already 100% for schizophrenia and fatigue. Should I? No, you should not. You should not poke a wild animal with a very large stick. There's no benefit to getting anything else. There is no factual benefit. Military Mike, hear me on this. Do not touch anything. Now, if you have something else that can give you an SMC, fair enough. That's not related to any of these things, then fair enough. But do not touch this ever. Ever. Like don't go back for this. There is no reason to. I get the principle of it, to want to be able to say that you had trauma from the military, post-traumatic stress disorder. There is something to be said about having the VA be accountable for that, but that is not worth the potential to have yourself be reduced. No, do not touch your claim. Final answer. Yeah, because you're already S1. I mean, you literally have S1. Okay, I'm catching up actually. I do tell my veterans that when they go to an examiner, everything is bad, and some days it's worse. Well, you know what I would tell people is tell them what your worst day looks like. Like what your worst day last month looked like. Especially if it's not a muscular skeletal issue. If it's a muscular skeletal issue, um, the veteran can do the flare ups, right? So they can talk about flare ups that are not currently happening, and they can get evaluated for those flare ups. However, non-muscular skeletal issues don't have the flare up requirement, so you actually have to tell them what your worst day looks like. Okay. um Kimball charges a lot for his memberships. That's crazy how much he charges for helping veterans. I I can't attest to that. I don't know anything about it. Seeing too many ads for these services promising percentages. Yeah, if somebody's promising you anything, don't. No. No way on earth, no way under heaven. No. Nobody can promise you anything. And I swear, Luna, to the moon, if you don't stop it. They can't promise you anything because unless there's fraud involved, like unless they're paying somebody under the table to enact something, they can't guarantee anything. I mean, it's like going before a judge and trying to get them to guarantee, an outcome. I mean, you can't guarantee anything. There's a reason why you will hear me say the likelihood. It increases the likelihood of a positive outcome. Or I try not to use absolutes in anything. My videos will say how 100% or how 50% for migraines is rated. I show you how each step goes for how 10%, 30%, 50% are rated. I never tell you how to get to 100% or that you can even get to 100%, like whatever I mean. I will say, like, this is a tip to potentially get you to the next higher level. Never, ever, ever, ever believe anybody that promises you a percentage because they're lying to get your money. They have no power, they have no control, they have no ability to manifest an outcome ever. I don't care if you have prostate cancer that can be proven. Until you get the rating narrative, there's no guarantee of anything. And then even after that, you have 60 days for them to take it away for some random weird reason because of a quality error, a CUNE that happened. So no, this drives me nuts. Like crazy. Question. Is it a CUNE finding and correction when a DRO action reclassifies? No. No. No, they have the ability to do that. No. They once again, I'm going to take this time to say that the DRO has mystical powers that you do not want to mess with, and they can do random things. And you have no power and control to overcome that. Because if the DRO did it, another DRO is going to look at it and go, oh, one of my brethren did it. So no soup for you, like they're not gonna, no. Yeah. Nope. I'm skipping through here. I'm going to try to screen these a little bit just because I'm trying not to like anything negative towards other people or anything like that. I'm trying not to highlight that. Getting a CMP is annoying. True. Oh, the Philippines. Ouch. Isn't that where the Manila office is? Mailing address in the US. Yeah. Waiting for Vera. Yeah, Manila. Yeah. I know somebody in Manila. The Manila RO. So yeah. Um, well, okay, so this right here, you need to make sure that your va.gov address is your Philippines address, Weaver. Um, you need that for a number of reasons. In case they send you something like, let's say that they want to do like OIG pulls mental health or something like that, and your claim's in it, they'll notify you of stuff. Oh, nothing's wrong with Manila. No, it's not a bad RO. But you need to make sure that your mailing address is accurate. All of you do. Because if they send you any kind of weird correspondence and your address isn't right, yeah, it's not going to end well for you. You are welcome. Now, keep in mind, answering the emails is a hobby currently, and I've got like 100 and something. I'm down to 100 and something emails that are pending. I have disabilities in my hands, guys, so typing hurts. So please, if you can, if you want to send me an email, please keep it concise. Do not give me 8,000 things to review, please, that I have to respond to, because I'm going to give you a short answer, just because my hands hurt in the day from typing. No, vertigo can never be secondary to anything, ever. What'll happen is you'll have tinnitus with vertigo, and it will never, ever, ever see the light of day. It'll be locked under tinnitus, and vertigo can only be granted to where you get paid for vertigo as a primary condition. So it had to first manifest in service, and that's it. And there's no known cause. The moment that vertigo becomes caused by something else is the moment that we combine it with something else. Thank you. And look, I point to you guys. I'm trying, like, I I have to I try not to say negative things about VSOs, honestly, because there's a misunderstanding about what VSOs do. Like some people misunderstand the VSO's role. Um, and so I'm trying to make sure that people don't beat up on you guys too much. Um, Look, I'll collaborate with anybody as long as it helps the veteran community and doesn't pander to a negative thing towards veterans, to keep them dependent upon information or dependent, keep them in the dark enough, just please click on my stuff, but I won't teach you anything. Um, I'll collaborate with anybody. I haven't collaborated with anyone yet, but I mean, I'm not against it in the future. I just I mean that though. Like I don't want it to be like, yeah, hey, I'm here with John and we're going to talk about Jergens body wash. Like, no, I'm not doing that. Okay? Like I'm not doing that at all. Um, though I will say that there is one person that I will collaborate with. Sitting here today with the raider of the HQ, I can tell you he's a good man. He knows what he is talking about, and he's here for the veteran community. And if you don't like it, you can meet me out in the parking lot. Sorry. Somebody requested that earlier. I was given, and at least likely it's not for insomnia from a CMP examiner, but denied service connection because insomnia is said to be a symptom of insomnia is another one that cannot be secondary to something else. It can. It should have been Hodgkin's disease with insomnia. They should have. Daryl, I'm not going to say anything negative about anybody, okay? I mean, I like answering questions. I don't mind it. It is not service connected. How do I fight this? You would have to have insomnia be directly related to service. So you would have to have insomnia in service in order to get it granted. Insomnia itself would not. It literally can. There's two conditions that can never be secondary. Now, when I mean never be secondary, I mean never be secondarily granted separately. They'll be combined with the primary condition, but insomnia and vertigo are the two things. Now, is it insomnia or could it be depression due to Hodgkin's disease or what is it? Hodgkin's disease. Depression from Hodgkin's disease can be service connected, and mental health related sleep disturbances can be also secondary to Hodgkin's disease as long as they fall under depression. LA Fire, I don't know. Did I answer that question? I hope I did. I'll be honest with you, Eddie. I don't know what step 3 is. The step system is a made up fictional thing for the veterans to look at that doesn't actually accurately reflect what the claims process looks like. So nobody on the inside refers to it in the step category. I don't even know what it means. I'll be honest with you. Like none of us do. So, and then we're to 602. I'm catching up though. Okay. Yes. 4138s are life. Johnny Rambo. Yes, you can, but it has dangers. One of the dangers of doing this is that let's say that your exams get done out of order. So if you are trying to service connect, like let's say, I don't know why people like to use this one because to me, it's rarely ever granted. But let's say sinusitis caused you're trying to get sinusitis service connected so your sleep apnea can be secondary to your sinusitis. If your exam for sleep apnea happens before your sinusitis exam, sometimes the examiner doesn't have the evidence in front of them, right, to be able to accurately make the assessment for the secondary medical opinion. You'll see this more often than when you're dealing with like mental health causing something else because you have two separate examiners. The mental health examiner will be doing their part. So if you said a better analogy would be sleep apnea secondary to PTSD, and the PTSD hasn't been granted yet. Because the sleep apnea person won't have, if their exam goes first, they won't have any of the evidence or information from the second exam, from the PTSD exam in order to make that determination. So that's what I mean. Yeah. Um, as long as it takes, Jack Frost. Literally, as long as it takes. How much time is needed for a raider? Honestly, to rate a claim, if I get 5 claims in a day, I can rate 5 claims in a day. It's about my average, 5 claims in a day. So sometimes the claim 2 or 3 days. I mean, I would say a good range, nothing over 5. If you've got a claim in your queue sitting over 5 days, someone is sending you an email going, "What's going on with this claim? Why is this sitting here?" Because when claims sit on station for too long, what happens is that there's this escalation of why is this waiting? And it goes up to your coach. Why is this waiting? Goes up to the VSCM. Why is it waiting? Goes up to the, it goes up higher and higher and higher. So no, EMG tests do not need to be done. Yeah, we're still live. We are still live. Yeah, I don't mind it. Okay. Sad lover. Mm, tough times. I filed a hardship and the claim went to a new step 5 claim that list only pay issue. Now step 2. Should I be concerned? The claims are going to do their thing, right? So the claims are going to do their thing. Bouncing back and forth can be normal based upon development and other stuff. Let's go with 603. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to look at more member question or more questions. I already answered this one, Carlos. It was the migraine secondary to PTSD or migraine secondary to panic attacks from PTSD, and then put in the 4138. Basically stating that your mental health systems haven't changed and you're not you're not requesting for an increase at this time. Tony, thank you for becoming a new member. I don't know how many of these I've actually answered already. Matt, oh, I remember I answered that. And we got Military Mike. Um, if the veteran receives compensation and now needs A&A, does he have to be rated at 100% to receive L? So historically, they had to be 100%, but as long as they meet the criteria for L for like ADLs and it's due to their service connected condition, why they can't do their ADLs or the other reasons that I went through beforehand, they can be granted it without it, is what the most recent thing that I've heard is. I do not have a second channel. No, why would I have a second channel? Should I have a second channel, guys? Is there a reason for a second channel? Zombie, can you help me with that? Why would I need a second channel? It seems like we can't go back in the chat too far. Are there plans to do a DBQ video for fear-based PTSD similar? I did one. I did one of these. I did fear-based in combat. Yeah, I did it. If you would like more, I can do more. I'm happy with that. And LA Fire became a YouTube member, and so did Wandering JP. Wanderer JP. Sorry. Wanderer. Okay. You're hurting me. All right, let's go back here. Trying to find my spot. Then we talked about the GED. I agree with this. The prostrating part is so frustrating because it's so vague. And it's literally that you have to convince the examiner that, something that's completely subjective. There's no test for prostration, right? So it's just based upon how well you articulate during the examination, which for some veterans is hard. Like the more severely, like veterans with severe mental illness, right? And I'm going to say 70 to 100%, oftentimes, like depending on the nature of their disability, they don't communicate well. So it puts them at a drastic disadvantage whenever they have to do subjective communication, subjective evidence. They have to convince the examiner of a subjective thing, like, yes, when I'm at home, this is what my migraines look like. Well, if you get somebody that's, confused or have memory issues or something like that, they might not remember the full scope of it. I don't know. To me, there are so many situations where the VA could improve. There's so many opportunities for improvement. I don't know if you guys saw my short today that I put out about the fact that we should all have access to our STRs. There is no reason why we can't have access to a portal like the blue button report on our, VA medical records. Why we can't have a green button report or something like that for our military records. Why can't I have access to my OMPF records? Why can't I have access to my STRs? This is insanity. Because how am I supposed to effectively appeal, or how are you supposed to effectively appeal whenever they say that you did not have an element two? How do you prove them wrong? Well, you have to do a FOIA request and spend a year of your life waiting for no reason. Why do I have to do that? It makes no sense to me. But, and I agree with this. I feel like it's convoluted on purpose, right? So I think that sorry, I think that the Doug Collins could make a lot of good here. He could put a lot of detractors in their place if he did some changes that truly helped veterans. If that's what he wanted to do, he could make it to where we had access to our records. We could see our own CMP exams. What's the what's the detraction? Why is there resistance to that? if everybody's if everybody's a fair actor in this entire equation, right? If everybody's being on the up and up and everybody's doing the right thing, then there should be nothing to hide. It's not like it's a state secret, right? I don't know. It bothers me though. So, military Mike, the Veterans Court is the BVA, the Board of Veteran Appeals. You can Google that. Um, it's something that's nationwide, so you can opt for an in-person one whenever you do a Board of Veteran Appeals claim, or you can potentially do it virtually. I don't know which one's faster, to be quite honest with you. But once again, I told you not to touch your claim, so don't touch your claim. Does the writer pray? Pretty good. I already answered that. I already answered this one, Lee, that it cannot. No. Hard pass, no. And you're going to get some clickiness here, but I'm going to do it anyway. We're looking at vertigo. And you're going to get clickiness. Vertigo. Okay. So we're going to share my screen. Vertigo. When the disability manifested by vertigo is adequately identified, service connection. So this means something else caused vertigo. Service connection should be established for that diagnosis rather than for vertigo. However, service connection can be established for vertigo in the absence of a known or established underlying etiology. That means cause. If there is an event in service, a nexus saying that the vertigo was exclusively caused by service, and the condition is not associated with any other disease or injury. That's how you can get vertigo service connected. Ooh, I'm not answering that question. I hope that if you guys are talking about claims companies, that you take what I said beforehand about people guaranteeing you things that they physically don't have any control over, and how dangerous that is. Because if it works out in your favor, then that means that the evidence was there to begin with, right? Just keep in mind the VA is doing weird things currently, right? They're looking for stuff. I mean, I don't know. You pay sometimes, with the accredited claims agents and whatnot. You still kind of pay, but like if if you had like if you're doing an increased claim, I don't think you should really pay anybody for that. But if you have like a hard claim in which you need specialized expertise, right? Like if it's an old denial and you're trying to do some, ninja magic or something like that, you want to go back and you want to try to win something that doesn't seem possible and you want to give somebody the shot at it, fair enough, right? Like then I'm fine with that because you're paying for skill, right? If you're paying for an increase, anybody can do an increase. But if you're paying to have laws, rules, and regulations applied or show that laws and rules and regulations weren't applied correctly, then that's different. Like, um, I don't know if you guys saw the video. I think it was yesterday where I was talking about somebody had sent me the email and I had noticed just by looking, they had just mentioned certain things. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's off. And then, we had talked about my video about the higher level review and when to do it, trying to be politically correct here. But I'm just saying that sometimes like they wouldn't have found that conclusion on their own unless I kind of pointed them to it because I have expertise. Right? I'm able to go, wait a minute, I remember reading about that. Same thing where it's like if you have an amputation of your leg, you can get hypertension presumptively secondary service connected for that. Like I just know things, it's stupid things that are stuck in my head. Um, okay. Entitlement to SMC based on aid and attendance denied. Now, pardon me. Not warranted due to um you require in it. Yeah. So, this right here is when the rater didn't understand what they were reading. And when they do not understand what they're reading, they do not want to grant because there's more likelihood that they will get in trouble for they'll get an error for granting something that they don't physically understand. So in this one, what you would need to do is you would need to do a supplemental claim with more evidence showing how your specific disability impairs specific ADLs and why you need another human being to do it. Um, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Only have x-rays with diagnosis of complaints of knees, hips, back showing arthritis. Do not have clinical exposures. Okay, when did you have these? That- arthritis diagnosed by x-rays a diagnosis. So, that's fine. If they were diagnosed within a year of your release from active duty or within active duty, then they could be granted under 38 CFR 3.309A. Okay, if someone put in for GERD before the new rating change took effect, will the rater review it using the old and the new criteria, giving the veteran the best quality? Okay, it depends on when the diagnosis happened. If the claim was filed before the change happened, and if the diagnosis was during that claim or before that claim, then they would use the historical criteria for the most part. The historical criteria is more beneficial for veterans that don't have strictures of the throat. So it's they should go back and give you the historical criteria. Now, the only thing that sucks about it is you're locked into whatever they gave you. So if they gave you 10%, you're locked there unless you can kind of transition into then that should be granted directly. Yeah. If you're on a BDD claim, then everything that you've got arthritis for should be granted. All right. My hardship went. Oh, I already answered that. Okay. There's a lot of hardship questions on here. I already answered that. Trying to find my place. Okay, a decision letter I got only listed the DBQs as evidence. Does that mean the examiner didn't have? No, you have to you have to go through the decision letter is not what you use to determine that. You have to go to a VSO and you have to look up the exam request associated with your specific claim to see what evidence the VSR gave to the examiner. Because unless they're, well, I'm just going to make this generalization. The examiners cannot see things that the VA does not give them permission to see. The exception to that is the VHA CMP examiners can see all of your VA medical records. But what they can't see is they can't see, like, if you submitted private DBQs or private evidence with your claim, they can't see any of that information. They can only see stuff that they have within their own records. So I hope that that helps. Why did my rep have to send in my private medical records 4 times and finally the VA requested updated income records? That was back in July 25 board. Ooh, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Where are we at here? We're at 6:16. Jeez, I'm still fighting it. You guys are putting in more questions. Do I have 9 likes, guys? Is that all I have? I mean, if you don't like it, it's fine. Nothing's wrong with Manila. We're going to go for another probably 15 minutes, guys. I'm going to just go. I actually am looking for, I have somebody that's going to be doing this. I'm going to be having emojis. I don't know what it is yet. I don't know. So I'm kind of at a loss more on creativity than I am for eagerness for individuals to help me. So 58 likes, man. Ugh. Pretty common to request all of your previous civilian medical records for an open claim. Yes, it is. It's very common. Sad lover. You asked this question like 6 times. Yeah, I answered it already though. Why would my VSO file a new secondary claim for sleep apnea related to GERD when my GERD was denied both on an initial claim and a supplement? I don't know. I think they might have misunderstood it. They should have potentially claimed it due to a different theory. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. I try. I do my best. I understand I don't get to all the questions, and I understand that, like, this is challenging, but answering your guys' questions, I like doing it. I would report this person, Chris. Somebody yelled at me. I mean, number one, I don't deal well with that. I have an anxiety problem that turns into an outward anxiety problem that turns into the military taught me how to resolve my feelings and handle conflict, so I don't deal well with it. So I typically disengage, but I better had scratched their car or something like that, or yeah, no, I don't like that. I don't condone violence, but I understand it. On the DBQ, the VA examiner opines loss of motion to a knee due to pain on repeated use over time. This is wrong. No, it's not Raider. No, they missed it. You have a new Raider. Any kind of pain that's reported on the DBQ should be a minimum of 10% for any kind of musculoskeletal joint, except for shoulders, which has a minimum of 20. This should be a minimum of 10%. Now, the only caveat to that is if you have multiple disabilities of the knee, you can have up to 5 different disabilities. Painful motion at 10% can only be given to one of these conditions. So if you had, like, let's say, limitation of flexion, Limitation of extension, only one of them could get the 10% if the repeated use over time limitation of motion didn't meet a higher criteria. So it will depend on that. Uh, and sad lover again. I'm sorry that you're on step 5. Apologize. Uh, I'm happy you got a new VSO that you like. It's good. It's good when you can find people that you got to put the effort in. If you're a VSO, I I'm not talking smack or anything like that. I'm just saying like you can tell whenever the VSO puts on the good. They put in the work to better themselves, to understand the process and the system. So it's good. Great. Uh, I don't want to answer that. Okay, was granted 100% P&T back in July outside of a CUNE discovered. What is the likelihood of my rating being reduced? Okay, if you go monkeying around with it, Coach Chris, that can put it at issue. If if OIG comes up with something, right? If OIG does some kind of crazy review where they want to pull your claim, there's no helping it. There should be no mechanism to get it reviewed. I did a video on this. The VHA treatments improvements shown by the VHA aren't going to trigger any kind of review of your claim. So, minus an OIG request for a reevaluation, you should be fine. I am rated for a cyst on my wrist and have now been diagnosed with carpal tunnel. Those are two different body systems. So you can potentially be granted if the cyst causes the carpal tunnel, could be secondary. But I want to say it's like 8513 for the diagnostic code for the all radicular groups. I'm just guessing. Um, you don't need an EMG test done. You would just need the diagnosis of carpal tunnels enough because they can do what is, I forget the name of the test, but it's where you take your hands and you put your arms at shoulder level and you point your wrists straight down and you put your the back of your hands together and you push, and if they go numb, it's a test. I forget what the name of the test is. And yes, we are live. Da, 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 da. So, Zombie, I still would like to know what you meant by this. I do not have a second channel, but should I have a second channel? Is there value added to having a second channel? Could it be the dark side? Like the darker, I mean, this is the after dark one, so I mean, we're pretty vanilla here. But I try not to swear or anything like that in any of the videos, or even though I have a predisposition for it. Okay, Cody, Arizona Realtor, Era, Four Feathers Realty. I'm gonna do the whole name just to plug your business. Four Feathers Realty is pretty cool. I have fibro diagnosed in 40% for that. Recently got chronic fatigue syndrome diagnosis, but rheumatologist did not indicate the chronic fatigue syndrome was connected to fibro. Okay, does it have to be connected to fibro? Cody, did you deploy? I'm actually looking at the live chat here, Cody. If you could just type, did you deploy to anywhere fun like Iraq, Afghanistan, Southwest Asia? If you did, then you don't need to before Twilight. Nice. Nice. Sorry. If you got fibro service connected under the 38 CFR 3.317 MUCME, chronic fatigue syndrome is also a presumptive for that. So you wouldn't need to do secondary. You would just claim it under 38 CFR 3.317. I don't know if that helps you or not, but Then it should be under the old system, Rodney. Should be under the old system. So you didn't deploy. Okay, Cody. Thank you for answering that. So you could do it due to TERA. So here are the theories that could apply to yours, Cody. Direct, right? If it manifested in service, which probably unlikely. Secondary, so secondary to fibromyalgia. That is a possibility. You do want to lay the foundation with your doctor before you start a claim, though, because the nurse practitioner that likely reviews your claim is going to be kind of flailing to find a causal nexus. You will also, Cody, want to find any kind of clinical articles, not for the rater, for the examiner, because they're not going to be a specialist in this kind of diagnostic criteria. So them associating those two, they will not have a foundation to know whether or not it is a common secondary or it's not. So find any articles that show, maybe somebody, correct demographics, stuff like that, that kind of point to how fibro could cause your chronic fatigue syndrome. Then, I would file the claim, obviously get your rheumatologist to, maybe make that correlation if they can, if they feel comfortable doing it. If not, you need to pad as much evidence as you can. It's not, I think I've seen this like twice, but obviously, it's a rarity to have both. It would more than likely have to be secondary. Now, the other thing that could happen is you could maybe do chronic fatigue syndrome due to TERA, toxic exposure risk activities, if you actually had a TERA memorandum that was positive in your favor. So that's another way that you could go about it, another avenue. But yeah, that's about all I got for that one. I say 15 minutes and then I don't remember whenever I said I was going to be 15 minutes. Okay. Asking for clarity. Can someone claim insomnia secondary to? No, you cannot. They're both mental health. They would be combined together. There would be no benefit added. I know, custom emojis of my dog barking. Yeah, no joke. Like I've got two of them. Two of the little butt heads. They're over there just looking at me. Oh my gosh. Jarhead. Jarhead did it again. I think he did it beforehand, but thank you, Jarhead. I appreciate that. Wow. And I'm gonna go down here and just Backfist is a new member. Thank you. And then a very oddly specific amount, $17.90. Good stuff. Thank you. Lifeboat. Thank you. Always, and guys, this is always appreciated, never required. Ranting would be good. Yeah, the ranter HQ. I'm sorry for ranting so much, guys. It just gets me sometimes. Like there are certain things, and I think I'm gonna call it on the questions for right now, and I'm just gonna outro into the rambling here because I've been doing it for 2 hours now. But so just be cautious with some of the things. Like I'm not saying you guys have to watch me. I'm not saying that anybody has to watch me. But please do your homework. Do not take what somebody says at face value. I try to go through and show you guys the receipts, right? I try to back up what I can say, give you a rationale as to why I say it. And it comes from being the Raider thing situation, right? Because that's the way that the evidence has to be. You have to be able to prove that, like this is why I did what I did. But don't just watch out for the snake oil salesmen out there because there are so many, right? There are so many out there that are telling you some falsehoods. And I'm not going to name any names, even though I want to, even though I could. But I don't want to like, but there are people that are just doing clickbaity stuff, right? And you got to take it for what it is. Look at it as entertainment, right? If they're not giving you any resources as to how they came to their conclusion, it's a good bet that they're just saying things to keep you scared. Fear bait, clickbait, rage bait, even to get you mad at the VA. Okay. TBI is a little bit different. That's a disease process. So talk all day, that's a disease process. So that's built into the TBI mechanism. You would just do an increase on TBI. It depends on, and Robert G, it depends on who you get as a um as a rater and a VSR, whether or not they're going to burn those private DBQs or not. Even, and I've said this beforehand, Dr. Sharma, I've actually adjudicated a couple of claims that Dr. Sharma had, done DBQs on. They were great. Like they were good. They passed my tests with flying colors. But I, I can't guarantee that if you gave it to the next rater over, that they would see it the same way, because I guess you know fraud is that horrible thing that they're looking for currently, and they're seeing fraud in every shadow, and it's driving me nuts. And yes, Jarhead, I will agree 1,000%. You guys need to watch out for the AI. You guys need to watch out for some of these claim companies that are guaranteeing you some stuff and telling you, maybe not like saying, hey, look, if you're gonna say this, make sure that you at least describe your symptoms. Like that's not the same as, I want you to say that you hear noises, you hear voices and noises. Okay, tell them about the noises and the voices. Okay, you got to tell them about it, because if you don't, then they ain't gonna give you the 100%. You ain't gonna like it. Like I don't know. Like you guys got to watch out for that. Like that good old boy thing where they just talk about. Yeah, actually, Tony, I'm gonna do an asthma video probably real soon. I hear all the voices, boys. I hear all the voices. I'm just sitting here hearing them, listening to them, ruminating on them. Gives me the vapors. But yeah, so just watch out, because like there are some bad actors out there that are really trying to separate you from your money. And they're also trying to do that by the clickbaity BS. I'm just going to say that. E. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping to at least, and to be honest with you, I've only been doing this for 2 months, right? So I shouldn't be complaining, because the algorithm hasn't even grabbed onto the channel yet, to be honest with you. The way that the algorithm works to where it feeds it to other people. I like talking to people. I could do this all night, honestly. But yeah, so I'm hoping to grow the channel. So my humble request is that anybody that's still here, all 173 of your beautiful faces, just tell everybody about the channel. I want to grow to a point where, we're not going to do Jergens body wash as, we're not going to do sponsors like that or anything like that. We might do some collaborations if it makes sense for the channel, but we're not going to. I just want to grow it to the point that we can at least level the playing field so veterans have a decent to fair chance that their evidence is actually adjudicated correctly. But thank you for subscribing, Twix. I appreciate that. And and Zombie, I agree. I think I am doing really well for 2 months, and I just need to humble myself. My oldest daughter told me that I need to lower my expectations a little bit for what I want and slow down, because it's going to be a marathon. It's not going to be a sprint. I can't, my goal is to try to fix things, and I can't fix things overnight. So, well, thank you. I appreciate that, MCM. I do. And honestly, sometimes you should email me and might yak about a couple things because I have questions too, because I don't, beyond like how things are claimed, like how things are filed, I don't know much about, honestly, other than in my own personal VA claims processing. So there might be some value added to a discussion where we kind of talk back and forth about what like you think happens and what I think happens, and because there can be a lot of misunderstandings. I don't know. Just a thought. Maybe in the future. Yes, they do, Mike. They listen to my channel and they make fun of me. I think it's pretty cool though. Just because having a wealth of knowledge. Um, oh no. Yeah, no, not happening, MCM. Not happening at all. Uh, not for that. But yeah, my kids, they think I'm a dork, but you have a specialized set of experience. Like I forget sometimes that this information is not openly known to everybody, like how certain things happen and you know, how weird stuff happens. Um, Thank you for gifting the one sub. I appreciate that, long tab. James, thank you for the $20 super sticker. And no bad mojo. Thank you for the $3 super sticker. All right, guys. I think that's about. Oh, here it is. I'll put it in the chat. Raider.hq at gmail.com. And that's what it is. So, I try to be fair and open, but yeah, if you guys have any video ideas, whenever this uploads, which it'll upload here in a few minutes, just put some, maybe some video ideas that you want to see. If you have questions that I didn't answer, please put them in the comments section of this live stream when it uploads and it goes to being a normal video. And I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. Other than that, guys, that's about all I got for you tonight. Just take, what do you guys get? Okay, so that's why we have to be very secret. Actually, Modoc, I want to take, okay, you won't let me leave, Modoc. So that's why we have to be very secretive about who we are and what we do, is because people can take bribes. Because think about how much money you can, like Puerto Rico. This happened in Puerto Rico where they were getting money to favorably have outcomes, right? But it's also bad because even if you didn't help somebody, if they're like, yeah, no, I know John over here, James or Sally or whomever, and they're a raider, well, that can put scrutiny onto you. So you don't tell anybody what you do. You never tell anybody what you do. And if you do, then they don't. Yes, Luna. Now you know my dog's name. At least one of them. Yeah, I have Great Danes, so they're just big. But anyway, guys, that's about all I got for you tonight. Have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful weekend. Also, final thing I want to say to you guys is double check your dependency status. Make sure all your dependency statuses are accurate. I talked to somebody yesterday, and their dependency status was off to the point of like $264 that they were missing out on. So it would behoove you guys to double check and make sure that your dependency statuses are all on the up and up, that they all match. But anyway, have a great evening. Raider out.